not yet in the coding, just we are doing project setup, right? We create repositories and we started with one admin service, simple microservice we started. Okay, we created a simple hello for admin service and all the configurations we have hard coded within admin service. Instead of hard coding everywhere, application properties we can configure via cloud config service that we will see. Basically, from where this cloud config service can able to maintain properties. Cloud config is a central configuration server. So this cloud config server is a central configuration. Here you will be having all microservices configurations. All your microservices configurations will be managed from one single application instead of maintaining them for each application. Admin service, we have manager service, we have customer delivery, right? When they want to connect with database or if they want to connect with any third party systems, if they need configurations for that connections, or if there are any particular formats that I need to maintain across all the applications, a common date format I want to maintain. So if I hard code that configurations within the applications, within the application, maintenance will become tough in future when you want to do the changes which are required for every service, manager, seller, customer. I don't want to configure my, at least example, database properties. Okay, drivers configuration, drivers configuration. If I maintain locally, if I maintain it locally, whenever you want to do changes, consider consider your new database schema. You have new database schema here. Today you are using one schema. Tomorrow, people thought that instead of going with old schema, let us use a new schema. If I have already hard coded within this application, right? My application again need to have the changes here. Same way here and here and here. Instead of going to each application and doing these changes, right? If I have a centralized control rather than maintaining these properties here, if I shift these properties from here to here, admin related or manager related configuration for all your microservices, all the database driver configurations or any configurations, if you can able to shift it to a centralized server, a centralized server. From there also this services can invoke these properties. From here, admin service can use these properties. And from here, manager service, your seller service and customer, every service can utilize the same properties or you may have different properties. Admin service might have admin properties, manager service can have manager, seller, customer, delivery, all their connection properties you can maintain. And my microservices can refer to this cloud config server. They can refer to cloud config server to invoke these properties. And you need not to this again cloud config server also a Spring Boot application. This is also a Spring Boot application. This is also a Spring Boot application. You need not to configure these properties here. You need not to hard code them within your application. You can have a Bitbucket project or a Git project, right? You can have a Git project or Bitbucket project Within that Git repository, okay, this is a private repository. As a technical architect or as a client, I have permissions. I have permissions to that so and so Git repo. So I am the architect or DevOps team or client. Let's say if we all have access to that repository, I can directly go and do the changes here. So instead of placing these configurations here, instead of placing these properties here, you can have all these configurations within Git repository. From that Git repository, you can able to, from that Git repository, right? You can able to. So from your Git repository, you can able to get them into your config server. Via config server, you can able to release them to your microservices. So this config server is a central server where it can able to pull all your Git repository library, Git repository properties. That properties you can distribute to your local microservices. Okay, I'll show you a simple example here how it works. I have a config server here. Okay, I have a config server here. This config server purpose is pull the properties from Git repository. From Git repository, it can able to pull the properties. So this config server is pulling properties from this Git repository. Okay, I have one Git repo, from this Git repo, one application properties file I have here. Right, in this file I have multiple environment properties. Okay, here I mentioned Spring config active profile on profile dev. If my profile is dev, see all these are dev profile properties. And if my profile is SIT, all these are SIT profile properties. Like this, for all environments, you can have properties here, right? Again, for each environment, I have five microservices, right? Admin service, seller service, and I have manager, customer. So each environment, here you can maintain each environment properties for all applications. Okay, and for all environments you can have your properties here. It can be a single YML or single properties or multiple properties and multiple YMLs, right? You can create any number of YMLs or any number of properties. If you follow this naming convention, that is sufficient. Okay, now here I have few properties. Okay, dev profile properties, SIT profile properties I have. So while composing these properties, this is a line separator. Okay, I don't want to go in depth into this. Anyway, we will create one separate YML file or properties file for our application. So here I have one example with multiple properties I have. So these properties, this cloud config server will load here first. Into this cloud config server, it will load. Now from here, your applications can refer to that properties. For example, if I start this application now, this application is running under port number 8888. Let's start this. Run as Spring Boot app. So your application is started. No active profile set. So the profile set to default. Okay. So anyway, it will load all your properties. Okay, it will load all your properties into local first. From here, I can able to fetch that properties into my microservices. For example, here for one microservice, I'm trying to fetch that properties. So here I have one class, simple configuration class. Within this class, I annotated my property with at the rate value. In this at the rate value, I given one property, admin app hyphen admin API dot dev dot db property driver, something like this here. Where these properties I have, I don't have this property in my local application properties file. Here I don't have. Still, how you would able to load it here means as my properties I don't have here, I am trying to importing that configurations from this config server which is running under localhost 8888. So from where this localhost 8888 will load all the configurations, usually I should have my configurations here like this driver name, URL, username, password. But I have not hard coded here. That properties will be inherited here. From where the properties will be inherited? From this cloud config server. How cloud config server will inherit that properties? Did I coded anything under cloud config server? Means again nothing. I did configure anything here. My cloud config server again inheriting properties from Git. So Git properties will come into your cloud config server. From cloud config server to you are utilizing within your applications. So my cloud config server is started. So here I am just checking whether that property will load into this driver and into this URL or not. I am just loading them. Okay. What I have here, driver name I have here, com.mysql cj, mysql driver, mysql URL I have. In URL I can see admin app. Okay. Now these properties are loading from that Git to here or not via your config server. You can test. So I'm just starting my Spring Boot application and getting application context and getting configuration bean and trying to printing it. So when you try to print it, if that property is inherited, you can see it in console. One more microservice I'm starting. Okay. So one more microservice is started in port number 8889. Okay, this is my client application. This client application invoked properties from cloud config server. It connected to cloud config server and it invoked some properties here. You can see driver name, driver com.mysql.cj.jdbc.driver and admin API auto reconnect. Something you can see here. Auto reconnect. Some URL, AWS URL I have given here. If you want to do the changes, if you want to do changes here, you may edit. It is not allowing. Okay, maybe this repository is different. Okay, not allowing me. It's fine. It is fine. If I change or if I create a new repository, that is also fine, right? Let me copy these properties and I'll be creating one new repository here. Create a new repository. Okay. Test config. Create. I'll be creating one application properties file. Application dot properties. And here I'll put this data. Earlier here I have admin app right name. Let me change it to admin service. Admin hyphen service. Maybe if you want to put Oracle driver, you may put Oracle driver. Oracle dot jdbc dot Oracle Drive, JDBC colon, Oracle colon, thin colon, at the rate localhost colon 1521 admin service. Sorry, it should be X something like okay. Anyway, this is not going to use anyway. Otherwise, put XE. Username password system admin. Commit these changes. Now view this repository path here. Now copy this repository path. Change the existing path in your cloud config server. In cloud config server, I'll be changing from my old repo to new repo. So new repo got added here. If you have already added dev tools, your server must restart. So this is my config server. Okay, this is not yet restarted. Let me shut down both the applications and restart it. Cloud config server is started. So your cloud config server will inherit properties from Git now, latest properties. That latest properties will be consumed in your microservice. So this, if you consider this is my microservice, now when I run this, one more app, AWS path, which environment it is loading, maybe SIT. I changed the path, but it is trying to loading SIT properties. So profile it is picking SIT. Maybe the reason is maybe the reason is have you configured SIT property here? Dev property. Okay, same property names are same. Profile is different. So did I use any profile here? Let me see. I'll shut down my client and I'll see. While starting it, does it have any profiles? Check run configurations, arguments. Yeah, Spring profile active, SIT is picked. That's right. So if it is a dev profile, while running our code and usually in servers, we pass these commands. Okay. So one argument also we give to along with the execution command. Earlier I was telling right, while running the service in Linux, we give service name, jar name, then one profile also we will pass so that it will understand which profile data it will be. Now run it. Actually, I have two environment properties. It was picking one environment property which I was configured before. SI. Now, if you see, it is reading Oracle driver, which is dev property. Let's say your application wanted to test for SIT here within your local application itself. During before running this app, you can choose your profile here. Run as, run configuration, runtime argument, your profile name you should pass. So it will pick up properties from SIT profile. So like this, how many properties we can have for our application? Okay, we will edit them later, but see, I can have here SIT, dev rule, UAT, first local, for local development, maybe you can use dev rule, database properties, and then SIT. For testing environment, we use these properties. And for user acceptance testing, we use these properties. This separator is mandatory, okay? Prod, pipeline in Git. Git also can do, yeah. Like in Jenkins, if you know, it's a stream of operations. Step by step, we configure before deploying our code. Okay. So there, in that pipeline, during before, I mean, pipeline is a setup where we execute tasks one by one. Compile your code, build your code, do the code quality checking, okay, do the sonar scan, execute unit test cases, or execute if there are any test cases like Kumba. If you put any steps to execute, that steps one by one pipeline will execute. Finally, when you believe that everything is good, copy your jar file to server. Who do that? The pipeline will do that. Okay? Commit changes. Now, if you believe that these properties are broad properties, let me put something broad, something broad driver class. Just example, okay? Here you will have actual driver name you are using. Broad driver URL. Now commit it. Now go to your client. Just restart your client. Restart your client class with the prod profile now. I don't know cloud config server refreshed them or not, but try it. Prod. Now I am expecting production properties here. You can see prod driver class, prod URL you got. I don't have any property in my local. In a simple, in simple words, nothing you need to configure here. Anything, even your server port numbers also. I don't want to do any configurations here. I want to maintain from one central repository. I want to sit in one central room, right? Police will watch all cameras throughout the city. He will have one central, in one place he will put all the monitors throughout the city so that he could able to monitor entire city easily. Similar way, I don't want to go to each microservice and manage their properties. In case if I want to change port number or driver properties or anything related to your application, I don't want to touch these applications for that changes, and I don't want to show that properties to this fellows also, whoever is using. So that properties I wanted to load during runtime only from my Git repository. As an architect, I have permissions, so I can go and I can add my properties here. These properties, cloud config server will load. From this cloud config server, your microservices will invoke them. So in very advanced concepts, again here, instead of having these properties directly here, All the values can be configured via keywords also. Okay, like a keyword will hide actual information. It will do encryption, decryption, right? So the encrypted keys you can put here, so that the data there in the keyword, right? That data will be getting here. From here, it will go to config server. From config server to your microservices. So you can maintain your property securely in one place. Nobody can edit it. Only I have permission, so I can edit it. If you see the earlier properties file, when I tried to edit, right, it is not available because I created in a different repository. I don't have permissions there. Okay, so this is how you can maintain central properties in a config server for all our microservices, right? From admin service, manager, seller, customer, and delivery team. For all of these services, we don't need to configure anything in local. We configure everything in Git via properties file or YAML file. It's up to you. Via properties or YAML. Same thing if you want to put it in YAML, you can put. Just use tool and apply convert option. Automatically this file will be converted into YML also. You can put application dot YML also in place of application properties. So if you want to see that conversion, you can see. For example, this is our admin project, right? Admin service. This is our microservice. So here I have, yeah, yesterday we converted, right? I hope you remember it. So we converted this into YML file. Instead of YML, if you want properties, you can keep properties also. Anything should be fine. Anything should be fine. Okay. Let me stop them. Yeah, we understand how to use configurations from central server. That is cool. Later we will configure for this admin service. I returned one simple controller for testing. Okay, for testing, we will write actual API methods. But before that, we need to create repository classes, service classes, right? We will focus on them. We will see how many tables we have for the service. That many entities we need to create. Then repos, service, then controllers. Okay. So this application, I configured Docker also. Let's see if it is working fine. Not sure why it is asking for Java 17 or higher. Just a minute. Okay. Maybe version conflict I am getting. I will check this tomorrow. Okay. For time being, April, if I use current version, Open API dependencies I can use. HTTP status. So it is asking to use Spring 3.0. Correct? We need to be little careful with these versions. Okay. I don't know. Okay. We will see the swagger setup tomorrow. We will see proper version for all this application. And the same we will use. Yeah. Now coming to entities that I need to configure here. We need to create them first. Okay. So create a package com.rbu.admin service.entities entity or entities package. So here you need to draw your entities. You need to create your entities here. We identified entities, right? Which all we need. For admin, as per admin use case, we need to create manager first thing. So I need a manager entity. Manager is having ID, name, email address, phone, PIN, division, salary, and report. And along with that, we thought of having created date, updated date, created time, updated time, and is active also, right? If I see everywhere I have is active, created date, updated date. So what I will do first, I'll create that base model first. I'll create a base model first. Base model, because I see a lot of properties are common across all the entities. So just to create a plain class with the private string created date, created date, updated date, and is active or boolean, boolean active. So these are the common parameters we can find, right? Is active. And country code also, if you want to keep it as a common, you can put it private string country code. Now I need setters and getters for them. So use swagger here. Sorry, lombok here. You can add lombok dependency. Lombok. Okay, let's add lombok in your properties. Yeah. Put data. It should provide setter and getter both. Setter getter required argument constructor toString equals and hash code. Okay, all this it will provide. You need not to write setters and getters. Yeah, my base model is ready. I don't have many models, only manager, but in future if you create too many models, right, you need not to duplicate them. Manager entity, now I'll create. This is actually mapping it to my database. Okay, I need entity here. So for entity property, you need to add, I am not sure. Okay. Add Spring Data JPA here. Add Spring Data JPA. By the way, I can ask here Swagger, right? No. Yeah, something open it should have. Not available. Okay. In latest version, I can integrate Swagger or open it. Okay, no worries. First, let me create entities. Okay. Let me create entities for all services. We will do all basic setup first. Then writing remaining code UI, lot of stuff we have, right? Form file, got the Spring Data JPA. This is sufficient. One dependency plus for all your ORM operations. So create entity and to which table you want to map. Put your table name here. Manager table, and I want to maintain database schema something like for admin service, right? Admin schema. Admin schema I want to maintain in database also. So I want to connect with that admin schema. Okay. In MySQL, I want to have admin schema. So maybe you can create that as well and keep everything noted. Create database ad, uh, admin schema. We will be using MySQL only, okay? For production, I want to use MySQL, so we will go with MySQL so that I can freely download and use it in my Dynamics machine. So now admin schema is created, I can use it. Similarly, if you want to create schema for seller, manager, also you can create manager schema for manager application, seller schema for seller application, customer for customer application, delivery schema for delivery application. So that the tables belongs to that so and so schema or so and so service. Can I can put it into its own specific schema. So as to complete, I'm not sure why it is taking much time. Fine. Admin schema. Then I can have all my properties. Private int ID. Usually, we should not create tables using ORM. Okay, ORM means automatically using your entity also tables will be created here. But that is not a good approach. You better create a table first. Okay, which table? Manager table. Create a table manager ID data type int name varchar of give the required limit email what properties you have as per this entity name email address phone pin division. Usually it will create on its own and the entire schema and the spaces how much space you want. Okay, here I given size 200. If you believe that 200 is not sufficient, put 500. Okay, automate. You can give, but what I'm saying is that is not right approach. We should not use anything like HBM to DDL create option. What that do? Sometimes if somebody see that properties in your properties file, you know, first time you run in your application, what it will do, it will check for the table in database. If there is no table, it will create it. If it find the same table, it will delete and recreate. Okay. So by mistakenly, if your team members, if they are not aware of that property, they might believe that okay, let's keep HBM to DDL create, and they might run the application. When they run that application, if you have already database here, already table here with the data, that data will be gone, new table will be created. And whatever indexes if you want to maintain, creating indexes, everything you can do it from database side. Okay, don't depend on ORM to do the DDL operations. Okay, first create table in DB. Hmm. Sorry, ORM. ORM method for creating tables. No, I don't recommend. I see many times problems with that. If you are using, yeah, why it should check every time whether your table is there in database or not. For graph databases or for still for any database, I don't recommend you to use HBM to DDL option, which used to create tables automatically. Na? Don't use that. Will you are you doing the same in production also? Are you assigning that job to your Java code to do tables creation? That's not a good approach. Okay, as per my idea, because my manager himself, while he is working, right, he thought of doing code in Java. I said, okay, continue. He copied something from Google, HBM to DDL property, update option he put. and he created entity with lot of properties. He is doing Thailander. He don't know what that property can do. So he created a lot of entities and he found lot of tables got disturbed. Already the tables are there. That is a banking system. The tables are there from since last 10-15 years. That entire schema got breaking. Then he is asking me who created that columns. When I verified the property which he configured HVM that is update. I asked him why you put here. He is saying I just copied from Google and kept it. It will create unnecessary issues. That is, dropping the table and recreating is not at all good. This is from my experience. Latest and during my beginning days also, I thought of doing this creation. There is a database admin, he created tables. He is my client. He is a client as well as he is the DB admin, technically. He created tables and sample data also he given me in the tables. I'm a beginner who like I used to think like okay let's use HBM tutorial create option. It can create all the tables. I created all the entities with one to one, one to many, many to one, with all the relationships and I created. It dropped the entire schema and recreated new tables. As he is a DB admin, right, my client. He visited database and he verified all tested data, everything he inserted. He visited and he verified, then he shocked and asked me, where is the data? Where is my tables, which I created? I said I used ORM and it is created all the tables, it might got deleted. Then he said, no. Always, whatever tables required, that you create from database only with all your required primary keys, sizes, foreign keys, then put that structure into your wall. That is the good practice. And you should not and never use this HBM tutorial option. Still, if you wish, if people encourage us, use it. I don't mind. Okay, that is my experience. You may share, you know. Even the last before project, we used HBM tutorial update. That is a one of this healthcare product. They used document DB. For document DB, it is okay. You keep always HTML to DDL update because document continuously will change. When your application is having RDBMS systems, usually I don't recommend. Okay, primary. Do you know how much size it will take while it is creating automatically? Let's say if I put private string name, do you mean to me to put the sizes here at the rate column and specify the size, everything here, precision, length? I don't recommend you to do all that configurations. That is not good. Okay. ORM you can use for doing your CRUD operations, not for the DDL operations. Okay. Do DDL operations directly on your database. Yeah. You can have in your properties file. Or if you want to maintain all these properties from your, here you can see right, HBM to DDL auto update you have. Always maintain it as a validate. Just a minute. If I no, by default, I hope it uses validate or none. Yeah. Yeah. So by default, yeah, the default property scheduling. Is it creating tables? Is it creating tables? No, burden of I didn't get you. So you are saying that don't create tables and use these entities. Automatically, table will be created. Correct? Yes. Everything it will create. What I what I am saying from my experience is consider you have already database. Okay, you have old application. Okay, you have already old application. You have database. In that case, will you leave that default option here? If it is create, it will drop and recreates. One more case, when you have all the indexes, I want to maintain indexes also. Okay, I want to maintain primary key, foreign keys also. Do you want to maintain that, 100% ORM in the tables? Whatever relationships you have, the 100% you want to represent in the tables, that may not give you good performance. Okay, people see we can do or manage things from the ORM, but in real time, keeping all that as it is in ORM is not good. It won't give performance, or it will create a lot of troubles also. Okay, maybe you need relationships, but maintain that in a different way. Instead of putting strict primary key foreign keys, okay, and you don't go with HVM to DDL update or create also. That is my recommendation. If you guys are already using, go ahead. I recommend for document databases, not for this. Okay, SQL databases, because I have two bad examples with that HVM to DDL. Email address, phone pin address, division, salary, country, division. Country codes not bigger than 5, I believe. 5 is sufficient, but yeah. And created date, created time, that stuff important. Created date, a date and a time, updated date, and active. Entity class level, I have two entities, but when I inherit to this manager, right? All that additional properties also will be coming here. Okay, within this table only that properties also will be created. So I created admin schema, use admin schema here, create the tables. So manager table is created. Select the star from manage. Yeah, I have all the fields here. In case if you create it, okay, these are my parameters. Okay, if you create it from application side, it will create with all defaults. Okay, generally people never mention the column sizes and all, right? So ID, name, email, private string, address, private string, country code. So is active created date updated date I got here. Pin I need phone number or string. If you are trying to do validations, you can even put string for them. So in database side also you can change if you want to maintain them. Yeah. Okay, but I need to map now. Yeah, table is there. I am referring that table here. I am saying when I am doing CRUD operations to this manager table, refer this table, manager entity, refer this table in database under admin scheme. Okay. And ID if you want to generate automatically, you should have compulsory a primary key. So if you think ID is your primary key, you need to put at the rate ID and at the rate generated value. And you can use strategy, whichever you want. The strategy here, automatic increment or sequences if you want to use. Okay. Usually we will use sequences. Okay. We create, the required sequence. Through that sequence only we use to insert all the records. Or if you want to use automatically, it can provide you ID. It will start with 1, then 2, 3, 4, 5, like that. Okay, if you are using PLSQL, yeah, even in MySQL, or else your custom generators also you can put here. Something in alphanumeric IDs if you want to put. But the remaining columns, if this column name and here your property name and column name, if both are same, you need not to put any explicitly. You need not to put any at the rate column here. But if your column name, the database table and this field name, when both are different, right? Then you can use it. Active, I'll get salary, division. Mostly same names I'm using, so that column annotation is also not required. And for getters and setters, you can use logbook at the rate date. Okay, this will not finish today. Let it run in the background. Okay. So this is my entity, which is This table, I think this is sufficient for my admin application. Okay, this entity is sufficient because admin wants to create managers only. Now for this manager entity, you need to have one. You need to have one repository class here. Com dot rview dot admin app admin dot repo package or repository package. Create it. Okay. Yeah, this build is not allowing something. There is a bug here. When it's stuck in 75%, it is completely stuck. Say again, it is stuck. Okay. We will create that repositories tomorrow. Okay, repository service and our controller. We will finish end to end admin service tomorrow. Only microservice part. Once done with this, we will pick up the front end one. Okay, we will pick up front end task for this admin UI, right? One front end app we will create to create managers. Okay, so let us finish this tomorrow, and then we will pick up. Yeah, yeah. If this table is part of the schema, we need to mention, or yeah, already yeah, within your URL also you are mentioning it. Maybe not required. Okay, yeah. It is available in, yeah, I used to habituate to write this schema always. Otherwise, it is part of your URL also. Yeah. So mostly these annotations are enough. Nothing much required here. Okay. Yeah. We'll see tomorrow because if I restart this also it will take a lot of time. Okay. I'll set it up. At the rate generated value. At the rate, yeah, I'm using it. Yeah, if you want to generate primary key, then it's required. If you want to insert by yourself, then I mean, if you are getting this ID from customer, then it is not required. So in UI, I pass only name, email address, division, country, pin code, phone number only. ID generation job, it will take. You need not to give that ID input. Because ID is a primary key. If you allow that to admin to create manager, let's say today I created you and one more person as a manager, and I forget what are all your IDs. One more person came, and if I use same ID, it will say primary key violation error. So I can't remember the IDs which I have already entered. So I don't want to take that risk. Sorry. Usually I don't take this ID from user. I don't want accept the user ID. I will generate it automatically. If you accept the user ID, then it is the problem. When I don't have generated value, obviously you will accept user ID, whichever ID is passing from the front end. So if mistakenly same ID repeated if somebody enters, it create primary key violation errors. So I don't want allow user to give this ID. My application only will handle this ID. Okay, just remaining fields I'm expecting: name, email address, division, country code, PIN, and it is extending base model also. So this base model properties also I want to enter from you. So for this boolean, maybe one checkbox you can put. For created date, automatically system date you can take. Updated date maybe null. Country code you can pick. Uh, as of now, we don't have any drop down option. If you need country drop down option, we need to create a separate table. But this is for only India. I mean, one country we are thinking. We can hard code the country code also. Okay, we will hard code it. Yeah, yeah. I will do that. Okay. Once this Maven project is done, I will commit this. But before committing it, I want to do this local and I want to show you Git commands also, Git and Maven. Then I want to do the Git operations. Or I'm thinking to shift this repositories to Bitbucket. Okay. Let me see, whichever works fine, I will use that. Either Git or Bitbucket. I just created one account. Bitbucket. Yeah, maybe in some other repository. All are same repository, same concepts. Okay, we will see that. Anyway, we will discuss about that. For now, this code I will. Mhm. For now, this code I will put to GitHub. Okay. Yeah. Okay, guys. Let's catch up tomorrow. We'll proceed further. Thank you, guys. Would be once briefly about today's class. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Like here, you got you there, right? Yeah. So actually, first I started with the config server, central config. We thought of having configurations in a config server, right? So I have given one example already, which I have. So I created one config server. From config server, we pull the data into local service. And config server is referring data from Git repository. We will see that again tomorrow. Okay, I'll explain. You want code? Okay. No, I'm asking, do you want code? Ah, check. Okay. See, yeah, I created simple cloud config server with the dependencies. Okay, one Maven project with these dependencies. Java 1.8, Spring 2.7 I have. Here I use one dependency, Spring Cloud Config Server. Okay, from Spring Cloud libraries, Cloud Config Server I am using. So what is this Cloud Config Server can do means it can inherit properties from Bitbucket or Git repositories. It can able to pull properties from Git repositories. So here I created one Git repository. Okay, in this Git repository, one properties file I have created to maintain my properties file. Properties file are YML file. Okay. You know standard naming conventions. Application dot properties or application dot YML you can use. Or with the profile names as underscores also you can use. Let's say dev properties we want to put application underscore dev, application underscore SIT, UAT. Again, our properties are YMLs. Okay. Now this property These properties I have in this repo. From here, I want to inherit into cloud config server. So just give this git path, git HTTP path here. Give that git HTTP path here in cloud config server configuration. So in cloud config server, this is the property Spring Cloud config server git URL. I'm using git, right? So git URL I am mentioning here. So that git URL when I mention here, from your git project, it will read application properties. Which application properties? Your git repository application properties. These properties file it will read into your cloud config server. Now consider all that properties are inherited into the server. Okay. So I don't have any properties yet. Still, you should assume that you inherited that properties. Now, these properties I want to inherit into my local applications. What you need to do, just you need to inherit your config server properties. You need to put spring.config import. I am trying to importing config server from here. So what it will do? This config server properties will inherit here. So this application properties file inheriting from Git, this application properties file inheriting from this application properties. This is having from Git, and this application properties are getting from your config server. Okay, in three levels I am inheriting them till my local, and for that, coming to code in config server, just as you saw, right, one dependency cloud config server, and in your main class put enable cloud config server and mention your required port number here. I used 8888. That's it. And mention your git path or bitbucket path here. Bus. Cloud config server code is done. That's it. One simple class with one annotation enables config server and one Maven dependency cloud config server and one property cloud config server. Git URI, you need to pass URI. That's it. That much code only you need to write for config server. So config server code is done. To use it in your local, you need to use this, and to behave your application as a config client, right? To behave your application as a configuration client, you need to put enable discovery client so that you can able to discover cloud configurations. Okay. So here you need to put cloud starter config. For server I used cloud config server. Here I am using cloud starter config just for client purpose. This is the client. This application is a client for this server. This server invoking data from. That's it.